Josh here with Bennett Bass Fishing, and I recently got a comment on YouTube saying, hey, I'm looking to buy the same boat. What have you done for modifications? Do you suggest this boat for anybody else? And I said I would. Here's the mods that I've done. So I'm going to do a brief overview of that and kind of my likes and dislikes of the boat and show you what all that looks like. So follow me through the boat. So I'm doing a couple local tournaments, and I've realized even last year I did 3 that the boat is not actually tournament ready, and it's not the tournament model, so that kind of makes sense. So to run it in the tournament, I've done a few modifications, a few things that have actually helped me out a lot in fishing for 8 hours straight or 2 days straight. Basically, I'm going to go over that from top to bottom, start with the trailer and work my way up, and I'll show you all the modifications I've done and kind of a review of each spot on the trailer and the boat. That has helped me out quite a bit. So first things first is the trailer. So what I've done is I replaced the rubber. I got the boat when it was 2012. I bought it last year, so the 2016. The tires were all dry rot, and so I replaced those. That was easy. Replaced the lights with LEDs here and the back markers, which is super easy to do. If you're going to do it yourself, I highly suggest that you look right here. There's a sticker that usually covers that hole. That's the access hole to get the wires through both sides and to get to those center lights. So I replaced that bottom bar. That's for any trailer that's over 80 inches wide. Has 3 marker lights. So that's one thing I've done. The other thing that I've done is bought a spare tire and a spare tire mount. I'll put the link in the descriptions below on where I bought those. I think that was from Walmart. It's $100 or so. The mount's like 20 bucks. It's well worth it. Never had to use it, but when I have to use it, it's there, it's inflated, and I can just swap them out, pull the jack out, and continue on to where I'm going fishing. So that's it for modifications to the trailer. The things I like about the trailer, it's carpet bunks, so I don't have to worry about ejecting the boat anytime soon. It's carpet all the way. Wood is easy to replace underneath, which is nice. The jack is nice, just gotta keep that greased. These are really nice. I'm just doing this for the video right now, but these are your safety chains. They're actually spring-loaded cables. They retract back, they're not in the way, they don't make that much noise. Really easy to use. I keep a lock on the trailer so people don't steal my boat. So that's it for the trailer. Now I'm gonna go over some of the electronics that I've done. So I'm gonna hop in the boat here real quick. So I've got a Helix 10 by Humminbird. This is the Sidescan and all that bells and whistles. I have an installation video and a review on that on the YouTube channel. It comes with a couple other electronics, standard stock to it. I don't know if it comes with a RAM mount or not. It comes with a little tiny small fish finder. It's like maybe a 5-inch screen or something like that, not Sidescan. It's very basic. So those work okay for finding where you're going and stuff, and I have a Navionics card in there. That's right in there, obviously. And the other thing I've done is I've put a USB power adapter underneath. I'll show you that. That's this device right here. Got that off Amazon for a couple bucks. I'll put that in the description. It has a cigarette port right there. But when you're riding, your knee's in the way, and then when you're on the throttle, your knee's also in the way, or the throttle's in the way, so that's not fun. So along with that side electronics, or the main electronics, I've got a Lowrance Elite 7 X CHIRP on there, and that is the guy had put that on there before me, so that's kind of nice. I use that and I can jig with that. I can see what's underneath me, which is really good. I've caught a lot of fish using that, especially the depth. It does not have maps on it, so you kind of need to look around and figure out where you are. I was going over the trolling motor. The trolling motor is a Tarova by Minn Kota. It's 55 foot-pounds, 12 volt, which is not the best, but see one thing I've done that most people don't do. Has this little track, and I've actually ground down the wire. Ground down the insulation on the wire, both sides, and made basically it's a double D shape, and glued it in epoxy, and it doesn't look that good because it was my first try. and then the sensor was already glued to the bottom. That way I can drop the motor and spin it 360 without having any issues, which is kind of nice. So this has got spot lock on it and all that fun stuff. As part of all that electronics, you need more power. In an 8-hour tournament, any sort of wind, I go through at least a couple batteries. So I had to add another battery, and I'll show you how I did that. So in the back, there's 3 batteries. I'll put the descriptions in below. So I have a cranking battery, interstate deep cycle. So that runs all my main electronics and my Livewell and all those fun things. And then I have 2 batteries for my trolling motor since it's 12 volt. I could run them together and get, like, you know, double the power and still 12 volt basically. But then I don't really know if they're dead. They're both dead at the same time that way. So I just run one, and then I just undo the bolts, undo the nuts, switch it over to the other side. All of the bilge pumps and stuff like that are stock. Haven't messed with any of that stuff. The batteries are SRM 27s by Interstate. They do really well. They've lasted me a couple years so far. Those do great. In order to charge those batteries, I had to buy another battery charger, which is a little more expensive, but the original battery charger actually died, stopped charging, woke up the next morning, tried to go use the boat, and everything was dead. Not a good idea. So, I'll show you what that is. And since there was no room in the back part of the boat for this gigantic beast here, this is a Minn Kota Digital MK315D. I'll put the link in the description where I got that. That was about 100 and something bucks. It can charge all 3 batteries separately, doesn't matter if they're together or not. And I routed that through, there's a little channel underneath there to run all that wiring into the back, and then there's, you know, the 120 volt cord on that end for charging it. So that's it. So there's the mods I've done to the electronic part of you. So I've done some other mods to the boat to make it more comfortable and make things kind of last longer. First things first is taking care of the fish during a tournament. So the live well is very small, it's only like 20 something gallons, I think. You have to run the aerator basically all day long. I put ice in my live well to keep the fish cool because the water gets hot in there during the day. So I put the V2 live well vents in there, which I think work if you have a bigger boat. They kind of work on my boat, I guess. But when I have the seat up, they don't really work that well because there's no air going into them. So I'll show you that real quick. So that's these 2 things right here. These are vents. So what that's made for is letting air in one side and letting the bad air out the other side. So it's a very small live well. There's a little divider in it. I've plugged the outgoing vent or overflow because you don't need it when I have a little thing in there. So if you put 5 big bass in there, which is rare for me, but I'm learning, it gets pretty crowded in there. Make sure when you replace your trolling motor for a bigger one, make sure you bump up the gauge wire. Make sure you read the chart that's on Minn Kota's website. I'll put the link in the description for that as well. So here's the rod compartment. The worst thing about this rod compartment is you can't get the rods out. So I literally have to take the rod, flip it over, and literally scrape it to get it past to that point right there, and then I have to bend it on the way out. So it works. So like right now, you can't push the rod straight. You have to push down, bend the rod, which it's meant to do, but not in all directions. And with stiffer rods like this one I use for striper fishing and my flipping stick, it's a little difficult to get in. And then this bottom part I use for my cheaper rods. They can get all tangled up and stuff like that. It's kind of a mess right now, but that's standard. So then I don't really know what these side straps are for. They're kind of useless right there. They're bungee cords. This is kind of a bungee cord. They kind of sit on there. So that's normal. The other thing I don't like, is another modification I've done, is I've added a longer strap here with the rods. So the boat is short because it's only 17 foot. So from here to back here is not really long enough. So if you have any more rods, and under that strap I can only fit a couple rods without getting it tangled. Bait casters are better than spinning rods. So I can fit a couple there, and you really can't fit any on this side because the center console, or the side console, is in the way. So that's kind of a bummer. Bigger boat, more rods, more space. So that's one disadvantage I don't like. Another one I don't like a lot is bash tracker. Spend the extra money and put like recess cleats in. These are an absolute nightmare. I had someone fall out of my boat the other day because they got stuck on these. I've had my line stuck on them multiple times. I did a fly fishing tournament and I actually had the tape over them so I wouldn't get stuck on them, which kind of, you know, defeats the purpose. Spend the extra money. You have to like drill all the rivets out and cut a hole in this and recess it down. So I just left them in there for now. It's a great boat. It's a great starter boat. If you are getting into tournaments, I would recommend doing the modifications that I did. I would bump up the trolling motor probably up to 100 foot-pounds or something like that, and the next couple sizes up. If I'm in really windy conditions, I can't hold a spot for the life of me, so that's kind of unfortunate. If you have any more questions about the boat or any of the gear that I'm putting on here, just put them in the comments below and I will answer them. Or you can find me on Instagram or National Pro Staff or Twitter, all under Bend It Bass Fishing, and we can talk there. So do me a favor and subscribe and tell your friends about the channel, and I'll keep this going, and I'm posting every week up on Thursdays.